Hi, I'm Phil.
And I'm Kate.
And this is The Underground, live from Glee 2024.
Woo.
So without further ado,
let's get down and dirty.
Well, we're delighted to be joined this morning by Adam Taylor, who's director at Taylor's Bulbs. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, Adam, why don't we kick off by you just giving us a little bit of an overview of Taylor's Bulbs?
Well, we're a family business, fourth generation family business.
Okay.
We're in Lincolnshire and we concentrate on supplying garden retailers in the UK and Ireland.
Okay, with
flower bulbs.
With bulbs.
We're also, I suppose it's really important, I guess, to add that we're farmers as well. So we have a farming business. We grow daffodils, but around the daffodils we also farm wheat, sugar beet, potatoes, cauliflowers. So it is a proper farming business as well.
The proper Lincolnshire farm.
Yeah.
So you say you farm the daffodils. I mean, are they? What are they actually? Are they just used as daffodils and cut flowers, or are they? Is there a other purpose for them? Being a novice.
They're flowers. Yeah. What other purpose do you need, Phil?
Well, often actually you can see a field of daffodils and you won't see any flowers because they're harvested for the flowers.
Right.
Our primary objective is bulb production.
Right.
So we're growing them for the bulbs.
Yeah.
We will take some cut flowers off them and we supply them actually into garden centres, a lot of them. But actually our primary function is bulb growing.
Right.
So can I just ask, so did you start out as a farm and you were farming the crops then diversify to make a bit more money? Bulbs, is that how it evolved?
Yeah, so it was a small holding that my great-grandfather was provided after the war.
Okay.
And he, along with others, established that they were all doing the same thing. All these little crown colonies were all growing the same crops, and so they needed to do something different.
Right.
They recognised the relationship with the Netherlands, Holland, because our local district council is called South Holland. And we're in a drained area of the Fens. And flower production came to the fore. So it started with various different flowers, then into tulips, then into daffodils.
Right.
And it's now daffodils that we grow. But that's how it started. That's the history to it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So you're part of the Taylor's family and you've grown up with the business. Do you have a favourite bulb yourself? Or is that like asking, do you have a favourite child or something?
It's a bit tricky, isn't it? Yeah.
We won't tell anyone.
It changes a lot.
Right.
Of course, it's the daffodil, is it? No, it does change a lot.
Yeah.
I will always, I just coo and woo over different things as I see them. So I wouldn't say I've got a particular favourite.
I mean, we are in daffodil peak planting season now, aren't we? So is there one that you would recommend to maybe a new gardener who's never really grown the bulb before?
Yeah, I love Camelot.
Oh, okay.
It's a striking late flowered yellow. It's really uniform, which sort of goes with my OCD. And so I like the fact that it's such a neat flower, and it's strong. It's quite short and it's short and strong, and so it just performs really, really well in the garden.
Right. And are you a fan of any flowers that you don't sell that maybe you would like to look at selling in the future?
I don't know. We always keep our options open. I wouldn't say I've got a particular fascination with anything in particular that I think we should be doing.
Grower,
no. I like a rose, but I don't want to sell them.
No.
And so there's various different things that I might look for in my own garden, but not. I'd separate that out from my business thinking for sure. We specialise in what we do, and I think it's really important that we do.
Mm-hmm. So I've noticed that you, as well as the bulbs, you also sell potatoes, seed potatoes.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Is that a standard combination for a company like yours that to sell both? And how did you come about choosing to do those both two things?
I suppose there's a natural synergy in that we've supplied into retail a lot of onion sets and shallots, garlic for many years, and so. As a farming business, we have a lot of facilities available for seed potato storage, which is really important, and knowledge as to how to store them, which is really important.
Really important.
So it was quite an obvious area for us to get into. We have a lot of the same equipment that you would need. Yeah. So why not? Right. And so it provides a solution for our customers for one, grow your own shop.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the packaging all links together and it's easy for the consumer to understand. So it's not necessarily what everybody does, but
No.
it certainly works for us.
And I can understand being in Lincolnshire, you've got the soil, you've got the space to be growing these sweet potatoes. So it does seem quite a good, as you said, synergy.
Well, yeah, but
Oh.
actually, the sea potatoes are Scottish sea potatoes.
Okay.
They're recognised as the premium growing area in the country, and so all of the seed is grown up in Scotland. And
Right.
we ship it down to
okay.
Lincolnshire, store it in our cold stores,
So it's a
and then we can then
storage you do.
pack it as needed and distribute it as needed. So
Right.
a lot of customers will have some delivered maybe in December.
Right.
Start the displays then, and gardeners will go and pick the seed that they want
Yeah.
and start chitting them.
Yep.
And then others will have more stock in January and then more in February. And so it's really important to stagger that. Otherwise, those seed can soon start to sprout
Yes.
in the garden centre. So that's why it's really important.
Right.
And Phil, you know what chitting is
I
these
do
days,
now.
don't you?
I
Yes.
do now. I've had a lesson
He's
from
learning.
Kate. So you mentioned there about the potatoes being grown in Scotland. Is that a climate thing or a soil thing or a combination?
Yes, it's climate predominantly and
Okay.
and soil. You've got to have the most the suitable soils for what you're doing, but it's a climate related thing, and so there's a specialism then builds around those circumstances.
Right. So we're here at Glee. I imagine this isn't your first Glee, as yourself and Taylor's Bulbs. How many years have you been coming?
Well, I know how many years I've been coming, but
Right.
I'm actually not sure how many years Taylor's Bulbs has been coming.
Right.
It's been just something that I've grown up with,
Right.
Working
Okay.
in the business,
Of course.
knowing that all of a sudden everyone disappears off
to Birmingham.
Glee, whatever that is. And so that's many, many years ago. But I've been working in the business now 25 years.
Right.
So yeah, I've seen a few.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen a few.
So how are you finding the show this year so far?
Yeah, good. I think that it would be really important today to see a lot of customers. I know the team have been reporting to us in the run-up to the show that today
Right.
they were expecting to see a lot.
Okay.
And so that's what we're hoping for.
Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. One of the things about Glee is the exciting new products that get shown here. Have you got any innovations or new products that you're bringing to market that you're showcasing at Glee this year?
Yeah, we've developed some new grow your own collections,
Okay.
and so we've put them into the new products for a bit of exposure.
Yeah.
Right.
But actually, they've been really well received by customers that we've already been going to see with these products.
Tell us a little bit about those.
So what it does is it makes life easy for the consumer.
Okay.
They have a selection of seed potatoes for salad production. They have a selection of seed potatoes for a spread of harvest.
Yeah.
And a selection of different veg crops as well.
Okay.
It takes away the decision making that I think can be quite intimidating, not just on grow your own products, but also on flower bulbs.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're doing an increasing amount of this thinking for the consumer and providing the solution. So
Yeah.
I think a garden centre environment can be a little intimidating.
It can.
And we want those consumers that walk in to see a massive, great big bulb display or grow your own display and just think, I want to try this, but I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
There's the solution.
Yeah.
So have you also got slightly smaller numbers? Because sometimes,
Yeah.
you want a potato, but you don't want 40 bulbs, 40 seed potatoes, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice if you have a kind of mix and match. I like that idea.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's make it affordable.
Yeah.
Keep it impulse, and also recognise that yes, not everyone has an allotment.
Yeah.
So I've noticed in our conversations just recently, lots of people have been saying similar sort of thing. We had during lockdown, lots of people coming into gardening for the first time, and it's actually, they aren't novices,
Yeah.
and they need that, have their hands held, as they go about doing these things.
Yeah.
And, in a way of trying to make sure we don't lose them from the category. There's suddenly life gets hectic again.
Yeah.
The weather
And-
gets awful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they go, I don't know what I'm doing. And it just gets too much.
Yes.
So I think
Yeah.
I think it's good. that
Yeah. The more we can
Yeah.
keep this category going, the better.
Yeah, and I think you got to be careful not to dumb things down either, because
True.
people are aspiring to
Yeah.
learn. They want to learn. They want to work out why they've seen their neighbours doing this, or a parent doing this,
Yeah.
or whoever it is that's got them into this way of thinking. And so there's one way of doing it, which is to make it idiot proof, but then there's another which is to say, no, I understand that you're actually you're aspiring to get into this.
Yeah.
And so I've got to give you enough information without overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
And making you think that you've got to be an expert, and above all else, give them the best chance of success.
Absolutely. Well, but just the process of planting a bulb or a seed potato, you can't be. You've got to know a little bit about what then works. Haven't you? It's not just you're planting up a container.
Yeah.
You've got to know a bit more. And I mean, I personally, I'm not just saying this because we've got you here. I just love a bulb. I love the fact that you've got this kind of ugly and they're not the most beautiful brown kind of thing that you put in the ground and you leave it during the winter months, and then suddenly in the spring when everyone's so fed up, you're just absolutely rewarded with this kind of blast of colour. It just still, 25 years later, it still gives me that joy, and I love that about bulbs because they're so unassuming.
We talk about selling the promise. And that's exactly what we're doing. And to give the joy of colouring. And so a lot of the purchases are driven just by colour. And so I think that's really important for display and to make sure bulbs can often be forgotten as well. And so it's really important that they're somewhere where the impulse shopper is going to see them. Because, for instance, it's quite simple to see tulips coming up in the neighbour's garden and thinking, oh, I'd like some of those. But of course, we've got to have got the message across at the previous September, October. And so we do have this battle for space for Christmas because Christmas is really, really important for our customers. But we need to make sure that we maximise our opportunity before Christmas really takes over.
So as a bulb producer, how do you go about developing new varieties to bring to market?
It tends to be quite a specialist activity.
I can imagine.
The growers will be producing the stocks that we're planting in our gardens. The hybridizers often just do hybridization. So there are various different methods that you can use, and paintbrush is the old traditional style for many.
Still used, is it? Goodness me.
And a lot of hard work and a lot of patience. And we visit some of these trial grounds regularly, but it's sometimes you can be looking at things and they're wonderful. Next year, they're gone. They just become susceptible to a problem or something is seen that's unstable in them. And so we keep our eye on those at that stage, but it's interesting more than it's valuable. It's when you start to get into having a bit of production on the go, that's when it's most interesting because then they've gone through that initial test period. But you can be many, many years from developing a new cultivar to the point that it's actually
you can sell it
in production. Exactly.
So that development isn't something you do. You buy into that. With the DAFs, we have a big collection that we built up over time. It's the collection that we exhibit at the Chelsea Flower Show. And so it gives us a natural pool that we can go to and bring some of the varieties out of there, bring them on in production, in mass production, our main stocks as we call them. And then we can see how they go, and they can retire as well back into the collection. Something I'm reading at the moment is just as an aside. I'm reading a biography about Ellen Wilmot, who's a sort of horticulturalist. Back.
What have I done to you, Phil?
Back at the turn of the century, and I was saying in that book that there was over that time, there was a craze for daffodils, very much like the tulip craze, but in Holland, a century or so before that. So
tulip mania.
Exactly. So it's a really big thing. So people love of so many different varieties.
And that's actually, it's not necessarily understood because it's what drew me a daffodil. Well, it's yellow and that's it, and it flowers in about March. And then when we get we try and educate that you can have the daffs that are appearing in January, and those that are appearing in May. Sure, the majority are yellow, and sure, the majority are in the middle. But there is an extended flowering period.
And lots of different colours.
That's right.
Matthew Pottage was talking about it on Gardener's Question Time, saying his favourite was, can't remember, Italia? Is it Italia, the little white? Yes, pure white. Which I do. I must admit, I love that one as well, especially for bringing indoors.
It's great in deciduous woodlands, in long grass, really natural looking daff.
Really, really pretty.
So looking at your business, Adam, over the past 12 months, What sort of challenges have you been faced? Has there been a specific challenge that's really, that you've been having to overcome?
Yeah. Weather.
Yeah.
It's not been an easy 12 months.
No.
It was so wet when it was at planting time last year.
Yeah.
Many tulip growers, some of them decided they'd plant early because they could see what was going on, and they thought we'd better get going. It then rained cats and dogs,
constantly,
and so the soil temperatures remained high, and they sat in water, which is not good for quality. Then many of the growers couldn't start for weeks. So bear in mind that most of the time, all of the tulips are in the ground by the end of November.
Yeah.
There was still some planting going on in the middle of January this year, and some of them just didn't go in at all.
Right.
So it's impacted on the harvest of tulip bulbs for sure, but it's also mirrored across other types of bulbs here and there, but it was tulips in particular that impacted. But we're talking about worldwide production here. We're talking millions and millions of bulbs. So actually the impact that you see in a garden centre environment is minimal.
Right,
because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We insulate from the actual problem.
Yeah.
But yes, it has been a really bad season for planting.
And does that impact for the next few years, or is it just the next year and then you can start again? Or if you're breeding, I suppose that's just going to keep impacting for quite a while?
Well, it could recover reasonably quickly, but I think that naturally there's a shortage of planting stock because the growers been under pressure to supply whatever they had, which tended to be their smaller bulbs that they would otherwise use for planting. And so I think next year there'll be a shortage of planting or an area reduction, planting area reduction. All we need though is one good growing year, and it'll be corrected.
Okay.
And that's, of course, what you hope for. What's the perfect growing year? Well, we'll never have that.
No, of course not.
But it's just, as long as it's average, it will recover really, really quickly.
Yes.
Excellent.
But it is going to be a little problematic looking forwards. And a lot of the impact, many tulips are grown actually for cut flowers rather than for our uses for gardens.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's the industry where you probably see most difference. I think in the cut tulips that you'll see, you maybe seen that they've used a smaller bulb, so therefore is a smaller flower, and the price will probably be higher than it was. But again, hopefully that's short term.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the negatives of this year. Is there anything happening in the business that you're excited about in the future?
Always.
That's good.
You've got to be an optimist, haven't you?
I think so.
You've got to be a realist and deal with the issues. But I am optimistic, and I think there's so many things that are being flung at businesses, at consumers.
So much.
There's so much to deal with, but this industry is recognised as a very optimistic industry, and we keep plowing on, and we keep motivating ourselves to do a better job, and that's a brilliant part of the industry, I think. So I've got a lot of faith in the fact that people love their gardening. They might not travel, they might not buy their white goods, they might not buy a new expensive electric car, but they will still garden because it makes them happy. And so as long as our products remain relatively affordable, then that doesn't mean cheap, of course. It just means relatively affordable for what else we're spending. Then I think there's still a lot of hope.
Good.
Do you export your bulbs?
Yes, and the only exporting actually that we do nowadays is to Ireland.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's something that we've set up the process to do, and it's not easy.
I was going to say, has that not been affected by Brexit and all the? Okay, let's not get into that.
It's been a pig of a topic, something that's dominated so many of us. It's been a bit of a nightmare, but it is what we've got. So what we had to do is spend all that time working on all the processes, and then just get on with it.
So, have you had a chance to look around the Glee show?
Yep.
And has anything caught your eye?
Well, I've had a look around, but I'm not shopping.
No,
I'm not a buyer. So I'm looking for different providers. Mr. Michael Perry. I've seen Mr. Michael Perry. Can I have his autograph? And
He's a friend of the show, you know.
He'll probably listen to this one. What have I seen? I've met with a few service providers and so on around the place, which is always interesting. You've got to keep your eye open as to what's going on. I think also understanding some solutions that customers often speak to us about. We often end up as consultants to garden centres. You can be having a chat and I'm having trouble with the EPOS system. Who does a good EPOS system and things like this?
Okay.
And so it's surprising actually, if you do keep your hand in with what's going on, it can be really useful. I wouldn't say I've seen a particular product necessarily.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you so much for your time, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
Fascinating.
Lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, and you. Thank you
very
so
much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the show.